This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Tuesday, July 14th. This is Africa 54. Due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, Voice of America is taking every necessary precaution to safeguard its employees. So our broadcast will look a little different today and in the near future as we, out of an abundance of caution, reduce our staffing at VOA headquarters here in Washington. We're working to help keep you informed about what's going on, and we appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. Bamako has been rocked by protests during the weekend, and violence has ensued since protesters demanding the removal of Mali's president. More than 10 people have been killed as a result of clashes in the capital city. VOA's Bambara and French to Africa service reporters on the ground spoke to protesters, and VOA's Salem Solomon has the details.
A 15-year-old was among at least 11 people killed and 80 wounded during a weekend of protests in Mali's capital city, Bamako. The protests, organized by a group calling themselves the June 5 Movement, or M5, were the third such mass demonstration in just over a month, calling for the removal of Malian President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. On Friday, Mali's state broadcaster ORTM was forced to go off the air after demonstrators occupied the broadcaster's offices. The following day, President Keïta took to the airwaves to announce a series of reforms, including the dissolution of Mali's constitutional court.
Tout le monde conviendra.
Everyone will agree that this time all the limits of tolerance have been reached and exceeded. Extremely serious facts have been raised, which deserve examination and certainly appropriate judicial sanction.
The court has been a focal point of protesters' anger after it overturned the results of parliamentary elections in March. Leaders from West Africa's regional bloc, ECOWAS, had recommended dissolving the court and repeating the elections.
J'ai donc décidé d'abroger.
So, I have decided to repeal the licenses of the remaining members of the Constitutional Court and to move toward the implementation of the recommendation of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS.
In the streets of Bamako, opinion was mixed, with some echoing calls for Keïta's ouster and others stressing that maintaining security in the fragile country is most important.
I don't like what is happening in the country because of the infighting. Let that person finish his 5 years term in office. Then whoever comes next shall be elected to office. These folks want to destroy everything around here, and no one will benefit from it. I came from the north, Sahel, and if they want to fight, they should take it over there. Fighting does not build a country only to destroy it. I am an illiterate, not a politician, and do not like conflict in my country. I have told my children to not participate. In case something happens to them, even death, I will not bother to check on them.
Others have simply had enough and believe it is time for a change in leadership.
We are tired and oppressed. Our children are also tired. No school, not enough food to feed our families. What we need is Ibrahim Boubacar to leave so the country could prosper. Ibeka has no power, but Kane and his son. We don't like to fight.
One protester stressed that the demonstration in the street is a sign that the Malian people are holding the leaders accountable and demanding good governance, and after decades of corruption and instability.
Mali belongs to us. Malians are standing up to say no to the corruption, no to the appointment to the National Assembly, no to demagogy. Mali is going to run itself with good governance.
In the wake of the violence, Amnesty International is calling for an investigation into the deaths of the protesters and the actions of security forces. Salem Solomon, VOA News, Washington.
The unrelenting spread of COVID-19 worldwide continues to devastate families and baffle governments trying to halt the highly contagious virus. The World Health Organization says the situation will worsen if nations do not follow strict healthcare precautions. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus told a virtual briefing in blunt terms Monday, quote, "Too many countries are headed in the wrong direction. The virus remains public enemy number one," according to Reuters. Turning to Africa, Kenyan doctors on Tuesday are continuing to treat scores of coronavirus patients just one day after paying their final respects to the country's first doctor to succumb to the virus. Dr. Doreen Adisa Lugaliki was buried Monday in a service attended by a few relatives. Chibanzi Mwachonda, Deputy Secretary General of the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, says the 38-year-old doctor's death was so painful, other doctors labeled the day Black Monday. Nearly 200 people have died of COVID-19 in Kenya, and over 10,000 others have tested positive for the virus. In Ghana and West Africa, organic food is growing in popularity as people try to stay healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. But organic produce is not easily regulated, and some consumers are paying extra for unverified claims. Farmers across the region are creating their own system with support from international bodies to certify organic produce. Stacey Knott reports from Accra.
Until last year, consumers of Ghana's organic produce only had the farmer's word to back up claims of chemical-free food. To guarantee standards, farmers formed what they call a participatory guarantee system, or PGS, to monitor and certify each other as organic for buyers.
With PGS, it's a certificate, so it's always easier if you can say that this body, hey, you can call this body, I'm registered with them, they've certified me, so that's why I definitely want the PGS to work.
A growing demand for healthy food during the COVID-19 pandemic is a good chance to involve more farmers, says consultant Abosere Olawumi Benedict.
Many people in Ghana just say, I do organic, and they don't really have the deep understanding of what organic is. So it's been a challenge, but we kind of see a new dimension with COVID-19. So many people really want to be sure now that what they are eating is actually, that has been labeled organic, is organic.
Imported health foods shop owner Ama Asafo Ajay says that more often these days, customers are asking for local organic products.
People feel more comfortable just immediately looking and seeing that it's labeled organic, just gives them that peace of mind.
There are other organic certifications in Ghana, but compared to the participatory guarantee system, they are expensive and aimed at exports.
PSG will really help the farmers because a lot of farmers shy away from certification. But if it is with the PSG, it's quite cheap and very, very affordable and friendly.
In West Africa, the participatory guarantee system is also used by farmers in Benin, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, Senegal and Togo. The system is backed by the International Federation of Organic Movements from a project funded by the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Stacey Knott for VOA News, Accra.
Campaigners fear the coronavirus outbreak could adversely affect the world's environment because of an increase in single-use personal protective equipment. From biodegradable plastic-free visors to reusable face masks, a group of companies in the United Kingdom are finding sustainable solutions in the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. VOA's Maria Diallo reports.
Discarded plastic gloves tossed by the roadside and filling bins are a reminder that the COVID-19 pandemic isn't over. As countries try to protect their citizens, demands for PPE has gone up exponentially.
I think all of us are very aware of this massive ramp up in plastic production that really is in the name of COVID-19. And one of the major uses of that has been to create plastic PPE.
Sean Sutherland is the co-founder of the group A Plastic Planet. According to them, nearly 750 million items of PPE were distributed to UK frontline staff from late February until mid-April.
Single-use, ripped off, put in the bin, exist forever unless they're burnt. We need to replace those with something that's much more nature-friendly.
As shown here, using materials other than plastic Real Brands, a sustainable packaging firm, has recently started producing more than 1 million visor units a week since the beginning of June. Ian Bates, a company co-founder, explains.
It's made entirely of compostable and sustainable material. So the visor, the clear part, is made of wood pulp, made from trees. It's incredible that it's clear, but that's the case. And this, of course, is made of carton board. And we've designed it so that it would be as simple as possible. So you take it out of the pack, it arrives flat like that. You don't need assembly instructions. You just pop it in like that and straight on your head.
They also plan to produce gowns and gloves. Like Real Brands, other companies are also trying to do their parts by offering more sustainable PPE options, including UK-based Ocean View Mask with its VP195 reusable face mask. The company claims the 3-layer mask can be washed up to 30 times. Nicole McDermott, Chief Operating Officer.
The idea that so many of these masks are disposable, you can wear them for one day and have to be put in the bin, just seems madness. For a key part of our wardrobe to be disposable, it's not sustainable.
Discarded PPE items could add to an estimated 13 million tons of plastic that flows into our ocean every year, according to a 2018 United Nations report. Mariama Diallo, VOA News.
It remains unclear if many U.S. students will head back to schools and universities at the beginning of the school year, but the situation is graver for international students. Licia Bacales has this story, narrated by Anna Rice.
This is the Catholic University of America in Northeast Washington, D.C. Russian student Lisa Britova plans to come here in August if she can get her visa in time.
Right now, the U.S. consulate in Moscow is now issuing visas. Any visas at all, except for flight attendants who don't need an interview. And since student visas require an interview, you can't get a visa without one. Right now, we don't know when the interviews will resume.
A student from Ukraine, Alexei Antonyuk, got admitted into Yale and is supposed to start in the fall. For him, the visa issue is also a crucial one.
My visa interview was scheduled for July 8th, but in mid-June it was rescheduled because of the pandemic. New dates were opened starting from August 3rd, so I signed up for August 4th.
Antonyuk is a Ukraine Global Scholars Program finalist, so he doesn't need to pay for his education in the U.S. The program helps talented students get scholarships in top U.S. colleges. In 2020, there are only 31 such students. If they fail to get their visas in time, they will lose a total of $7 million in scholarship funds.
No one has experienced a COVID pandemic before, so universities might review their decisions, allow students to keep the scholarships and try to reapply the following year. But past experience shows that if a student couldn't get a visa, he or she lost the funding.
Another issue that is equally important for international students is the format of education. If universities will only have online classes, the students won't be granted a visa. That's the decision of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Before the student applies for a visa, they are issued what's called a Form I-20 from the school. They go to the U.S. Embassy with the Form I-20 to apply for the visa. So the latest announcement that you just referenced gives instructions to the institutions that are issuing these visa documents. On the Form I-20 itself, that document, the school has to verify that they are in person, that there will be hybrid or in-person classes being offered.
This decision also impacts the students with existing student visas. If their university switches fully to online education, they will have to leave the U.S. Harvard and MIT have already sued the Trump administration, disputing these new rules. Students also say it is more beneficial for them to take even online classes while remaining on campus as opposed to at home.
Time difference affects studying a lot because classes start in the morning and some classes start in the evening. In Moscow, it's midnight or even 2 a.m., so that doesn't work for me.
You need to take campus life into account. At Yale, it is a very important part of studying. If I need to talk to a professor in person, I can always do that if I live on or near campus.
If you are waiting and you have the option to do online education, and if that works for you, if that's a modality of online education that works for you, I would encourage you to do that. And then when things open back up again, that'll be your opportunity to come here and experience it yourself.
Universities say they're eager to see international students as much as they were a year ago. At the same time, they're perfecting their online programs, taking into account the fact that students can be in different parts of the world.
So that way, if it's offered synchronously, then students can, of course, log in at the time of the lecture, or it might be where they're recording their lecture, post it on it's Canvas, so it's kind of the online tool for engagement. You'll have discussion forums, so a faculty member, rather than having, say, a live discussion, what they might do is pose a question or pose an idea, and then students then are encouraged or asked to then respond, and then students then are asked to respond back.
Every year, the U.S. welcomes about 1 million international students. In the past, their contribution into the U.S. economy made up about $41 million. Falesia Bakalets in Washington, Anna Rice, VOA News.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, how tattoo artists are using their ink to participate in the conversation around racial justice in the U.S. We'll be right back.
Your VOA Health correspondent. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the World Health Organization says there are currently no drugs licensed for the treatment or prevention of COVID-19, and there is no proof that hydroxychloroquine or any other drug can cure or prevent coronavirus. The misuse of hydroxychloroquine can cause serious side effects, illness, and even lead to death. For more information on COVID-19, visit who.int or contact your local or national health authorities.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Coronavirus pandemic lockdowns are affecting people in many ways, with some finding that it is taking a toll on their mental health. VOA's Zenko Novaki talked to a therapist from California who is trying to bring help to people online.
In light of everything that's happening with COVID-19, many therapists who otherwise see their clients face-to-face are now making the switch to exclusively teletherapy services. I'm Dr. Marie Fang. I'm a psychologist working in private practice in San Jose, California. Hi, Vanessa. How are you doing today? There are many advantages to teletherapy, and particularly lately surrounding the social distancing precautions around COVID-19 Teletherapy allows many people to access mental health care who otherwise wouldn't be able to access it, or in order to access it, they might need to put themselves at risk. Teletherapy refers to all therapy services offered electronically, whether it be video, phone call, email, or text. Within the current context of the COVID-19 restrictions, my practice has shrunk significantly, and my schedule has had to change. Normally, I drop my daughter off at daycare in order to go see my clients, and my daughter's daycare is currently closed. So I've needed to reduce my total hours available to see clients to about 1/3 of what I typically offer to them. So I only have a few slots available on my schedule right now. I'm hearing from the majority of my colleagues that their income has dropped as a result of COVID-19 and switching to teletherapy. For some, their income has dropped as much as 50% or more. And there are some who aren't taking a paycheck right now at all. We're already seeing major impacts of COVID-19 on people's mental health, especially for those under the mandate to shelter in place. They may feel literally trapped in whatever dysfunction might be going on in their household. Generally speaking, my colleagues and I have so far seen an increase in anxiety in a major way. There are many factors that have created challenges for us, such as trying to get the necessary trainings in order to make sure we're on top of all of the ethical regulations to provide teletherapy, and also figuring out technological issues just like everyone else in the world these days. It's hard to figure out which platforms are HIPAA secure and care for your client's privacy, and trying to onboard your clients to those platforms at the same time. I know therapists who have tried one platform, had technological issues, and then switched to 2 or 3 different platforms until they found one that really works for their practice. One major issue that I've experienced meeting with my clients via teletherapy, particularly while the shelter-in-place mandate is in effect for some of us, is because there are so many people inside the household, it's really difficult to find a private space to meet with your therapist.
The death of George Floyd while his custody has led to widespread protests over racial justice and calls to defund police departments and divert that money to social programs to help reduce crime. In New York City, the mayor is responding to these calls. VOA's Aushman Apti has our report.
Protesters in New York are calling for the so-called defunding of the New York City's police department. They are part of the nationwide Black Lives Matter movement, calling for an end to what they say is the racial profiling of African Americans and the alleged use of excessive force at the hands of police.
Over the last 50 years, we've seen reductions in funding from education. We've seen reduction in funding from housing. We've seen reductions in funding from healthcare. We've seen reductions in funding for all of the things that actually keep us safe and keep us out of poverty. And we've seen an increase in funding of the carceral state and the system of policing that criminalizes black and brown lives and keeps us harmed and keeps us in danger.
The death of George Floyd in Minneapolis became the latest flashpoint for those who say the police, as they are currently structured, are part of the problem.
It has been a racially oppressive system from the very get-go. So I think in order for there to be change, that has to be broken all the way down and recreated and restructured from the ground up.
In response, New York City has passed a number of reforms, including measures to ban chokeholds and allowing people to film police activities. The number of new recruits joining the force will also be reduced. Mayor Bill de Blasio has decided to cut New York Police Department's funding by about $1 billion and redirect some of the money to community welfare. But some lawmakers object to the more radical demands, such as disbanding the police department completely.
I represent a community that has a high level of gun violence. I have a high level of gang activity. And so how do I go back and tell the seniors in my district or, just your everyday hardworking New Yorker that have to wake up in the morning, we don't need police. We need to abolish all police officers. We'll be okay. We're going to figure this out. I can't tell half of my constituents that because that's not what they want to see. In fact, some of them want to see more police.
For many active duty officers from ethnically diverse immigrant communities, community policing is a better way to foster understanding between the police and the public.
As an immigrant, you're going out to your own community. You speak the same language. So when you become a victim of a crime and you're speaking to the victim with your own native tongue, it makes it easier for the victims to explain to you.
While reform critics say de Blasio's measures don't go far enough, police unions warn that reducing NYPD funds will create law and order challenges. But the city's council members say the reforms are a step forward to rectify the issues of police violence and racism that have created mistrust in the communities they serve. Aushman Apte, VOA News, New York.
The conversation around racial justice in the U.S. has penetrated all areas of life in the country. Tattoo artists also found a unique way to initiate change. VOA's Karina Bafraziani reports.
Vermont tattoo parlor owner Alexander Lawrence is accustomed to getting requests from clients to cover up racist tattoos. But after the death of George Floyd and the protests that followed in much of the U.S., he says the number of such requests has skyrocketed.
All these people are like, oh man, I have this old tattoo that I'm not like that anymore, and I don't want people to think that I am, but here I am. You know, today's a different day and age than it was when I was growing up, and I'm not hateful, but this tattoo makes me look like I am. So now people are becoming more aware.
28-year-old Dylan is one of his clients. When he was younger, he had a large swastika tattoo. Now he regrets it, so recently he had it covered up by a large skull. Dickie Markham also wanted to leave his Nazi tattoo in the past. He confessed that for a number of years he held racist beliefs, but after his son was born, he realized he has changed. But it was the recent protests in the U.S. that became the last straw for him.
When I was down there, I saw people walking around with their shirts off with writing on their body instead of having, holding signs. They were using their own body as a way to really project their point, and I couldn't do that.
In the last couple of months, a lot of tattoo parlors in the U.S. started offering such services, quite a few of them for free. Tattoo artists say it's their contribution into fighting racism as well as ignorance.
A lot of people who are getting like the Confederate flags cut didn't get them for any kind of outwardly racist reason. It was just, part of their Southern heritage, being, growing up here and everything.
Some get so emotionally affected by the experience, they share it on social networks.
I still have shame for ever getting it. I still have shame for the people I've hurt in the past with my words.
Tattoo parlors encourage people to continue eradicating racism, and on top of providing such services as tattoo cover-ups for free, they also try and motivate to make donations to foundations whose goal is to fight racial hatred. Karina Bafrajian for VOA News, Washington.
That's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thank you for watching.